Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for All In, Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 8. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Discovery, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Discovery up to Season 4, Episode 8. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, first thing I want to address, the little technical issue. If you notice this halo I have going behind me that makes me look like an angel, bright lights come in. If you can believe it, I have the curtains drawn and the blinds down, and yet the light still shines through. And in fact, if I look at this with my naked eye, it doesn't look like that, but the camera just picks up this bright light. So there's unfortunately nothing I can do about that. Anyway, maybe it gives it a bit of an atmosphere. Anywho, talking about the episode itself, I had high hopes for the second half of Discovery Season 4. The mid-season finale was really great. It had me excited for the show. It was actually kind of the best of Discovery's done because it presented this situation of Michael Burnham versus Book, and these two people who love each other having different opinions on how to deal with the situation, different political stances, and thus it makes them adversaries. I found that a very interesting, very fascinating, very well executed storyline that Star Trek rarely does. And so, coming into this episode, I really, really wanted to like this episode. In fact, because it plays more into it, you get some really the complications behind the situation. Some scenes with Saru talking to Burnham about how she's going to have to take Book down. The president telling Burnham that she's too close to this and should step away. And you get a few confrontations and from Book's side where he and Tarkin are like completely certain that they're doing the right thing. And that makes it a much more interesting sort of situation rather than have a mustache twirling villain, which Discovery unfortunately is consistent in having every season. And it has two people that are well-meaning and do actually make a good case, and perhaps they are doing the right thing, but perhaps not. And so it's a very interesting situation, and this episode does, throughout the episode, play on this situation and how no one's really in the wrong and how this is the personal cost of having this conflict, and is very interesting. So all this stuff in play makes me want to like this episode. Yet the episode keeps throwing in crap that I think, that makes me roll my eyes, that makes me groan in displeasure, it makes me think this is so stupid. Poker games, freaking wrestling, god damn it, that was so stupid. Trying to spot the cheater. Oh, I'll give you this stuff if you can spot the cheater. It was kind of like, it almost came off as a video game. Like everyone with Burnham and Book were, wanted to get this, whatever the hell they wanted to get, and they kept giving like tasks like a video game. Well, spot the cheater, or if you win this wrestling match first, and now you gotta play poker. Like, that's so dumb. Sorry, it's stupid. And this whole like barge thing, this reminded me of that episode Picard dealt with, like the Las Vegas type place, which I hated. That was my worst episode of Picard, and it reminded me of that in the worst way possible, and how they turned this into, it was being at a club and they're playing poker and there's a wrestling match with an announcer. Was it Ken versus some big guy? and then the poker game was like very James Bond-esque. I never liked James Bond, especially the poker games, and I look at well, let's play with the poker. And I'm kind of jumping around the episode, but when they, they're like, oh, well, we're going to settle this with a game of poker. And and Burnham was versus Book, and they're like, here's some two random people who also want this thing. And it's like, where the hell did they come from? Why are they in consideration? Because the thing, I can't even remember what that's called, but the thing that they're trying to get that Tarkin needs for his experiment, like, is a rare thing. Like, they had already arranged, like, Book had already, like, did the task he wanted to do to get it. However, he was being outbid by Burnham, who's willing to pay him 3 times the price to buy this thing. And all of a sudden, like, they bring in 2 other people. What the fuck are those 2 people doing there? Like, why are they even in consideration? It should only be Burnham and Book. And then Burnham was like, oh, we gotta work together to defeat these 2 people because they're like, they want to rise up in the I can't even remember what that organization is called, the Orion organization thingy, which was had the mustache twirling villain from season 3. They're gonna rise, and that's an organization take it over. So we had to defeat them. So Burnham and Book had to get together. That whole storyline seemed completely out of the blue, completely unnecessary. We need to just throw something else into this fucking episode to to fill in the time or two. Like, you make the stakes high. Let's just have them have to work together to defeat these 2 guys. Like, it was so unnecessary. It so didn't deserve to be there. Who are those people? Why are they there? And they just came in and out of nowhere, and then they just left and defeated and beamed away. Why are they there? It was a complete waste of time. And I guess I could talk more about that wrestling match. That was so dumb. Like, she lost twice, but then she won, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh yay, you won, and the way, like, I suppose we don't know this character at all because the show's done a terrible job of introducing these side characters. I'm starting to get a feel for her now, and I do like her inclusion in this episode, and I like that they sort of make her part of the story. But this is season 4, and I talked about this in my Prodigy review. Every character in Prodigy is already fleshed out after 10 episodes. We're in season 4 of Discovery, and we still don't know who these freaking side characters are, and they still like cardboard flag cutouts. And it's kind of these characters should have been developed by now. And every once in a while the show keeps acting like we should know who they are, we should care about them, and know that they're part of the crew, but the show has never earned it after 3.5 seasons. and so I'm thinking, it's so good that we see more of this character. They need to develop her more, but she should have been developed by now. Anyway. And I guess she's a wrestler. Again, it's not as annoying as making Chakotay a boxer in season 5, because he was an already developed character and his love for boxing just came out of nowhere. Whereas this character, we don't know anything about her, so sure, she can be a wrestler. We don't know what the hell she's into or what her hobbies are or who the hell she is. So sure, fine, make her a wrestler. I don't care. But the whole thing of having, like, and the way they presented it, like, kind of stopped the episode and had, like, the announcer in this corner, like, it was so cheesy. Why are they having a wrestling match in a casino? It seemed like so out of place. Like, you do see, like, in the movies and stuff, of the underground, like, boxing or fighting rings that people bet on and whatnot. But those movies, it seems kind of to fit the theme of the club, where here it just seemed like out of place. I don't know, maybe it was the set design. I don't know, it just seemed out of nowhere, like there's a freaking wrestling ring all of a sudden. And they're like, we can earn our money through wrestling. Like, as soon as, like, Owosekun Ken and Burnham were like, we need this more money so we can outbid Book. Where do we get this money? I knew that was going to lead to nothing good. I knew that however they were going to come up with the money would be something stupid. But I thought it would be like gambling. I thought, we're going to gamble this and win the stakes. But it turned out to be even dumber than that. Wrestling. And can we talk about this changeling? Is that like the founder changelings? Is that like Odo's people? I mean, the special effects were different, but that's just because Discovery has better special effects. And it was cool that, like, the changeling turned into a tribble to try to get away. That was actually like that scene, but it brings up a lot of questions. If that's because I think there was another episode like the original series or something before Deep Space Nine, where they had mentioned like a changeling or some other shapeshifters that existed, like that chick from Star Trek Six. Although they didn't call her changeling, they called her something else. But they specifically used the word changeling, so they must be talking about Odo's people. So why is one in the Gamma in the Alpha Quadrant? I mean, there was the burn for several centuries. That maybe he got stranded in the Alpha Quadrant, but when the burn was over, couldn't he go back to the Gamma Quadrant? Or maybe it already made a life as a criminal here or underworld. Why is it pickpocketing a casino? Like, it brings up a lot of questions. Like, what is the political status of the founders in the 32nd century? Like, what is the Dominion up to? What are these changelings up to? Is the Dominion destroyed? Is there actually relations between the Alpha Quadrant and Gamma Quadrant now? Like, what's going? I don't know. Maybe I'm a nerd for having all these questions, but as soon as I saw, oh, it's a changeling, that's so cool. But then all these questions started flooding in. Well, like, what are the stakes behind this? And I am 98% certain, actually, no, scratch it, 99% certain that the writers of the show do not care and did not think of any of this, and the thought process behind putting a changeling in this episode did not go beyond, ooh, would it be cool to see a changeling change shapes? Let's just throw it in there. I am certain that the thought process in the creative writing room did not go beyond that, which is what irritates me, because it brings up, for me, it brings up all these questions. Oh, what the hell? What's the deal with changelings in the 32nd century? And now I want to know. I want to know what's up with the Dominion. Anyway, that was cool to see, though. I will give them that. They got me. It was cool to see. But, you know, as I said, like, the scenes with Burnham and Book, like, trying to, like, the way Burnham was trying to talk Book down, trying to convince them during the poker game, those were cool. I did like that. I did like the emotional stakes behind it. I didn't buy the emotional stakes behind Tarkin and his motivation to go to this parallel universe to meet the scientist, because he just flew it by very quickly in some exposition in the previous episode. Now they're acting like it's like a big emotional thing that I should be emotionally invested in. I'm not, because I don't know anything about it. In fact, I think it's totally necessary. I think his motivation was fine enough as it was. Like, he's a brilliant scientist who thinks he's doing the right thing by trying to destroy these aliens who are trying to kill everyone. You don't need this added thing about trying to get to a parallel universe. I actually think that's dumb, and when they brought it up in this episode, I had zero emotional investment in it, where I got the distinct impression the episode wanted me to have a lot of the emotional investment, and I had none. And the conversation he had with the Wosakin was so unearned and uninteresting and not good. But the one thing that was interesting, before I move to that, I gotta talk about the dude who played the casino owner or whatever, the alien guy. That actor seemed so familiar to me, and I was certain it was going to be an actor I knew. I was like, I bet you it's going to be someone from Star Trek that I've seen before, like, not Jeffrey Combs, but similar to the Jeffrey Combs situation, because when he guessed in Lower Decks, I was like, hey, I know that guy, and I couldn't figure it out, and I looked it up, and it was Jeffrey Combs. So I thought it would be a similar situation with this guy, but apparently not. I actually do know him, but not from Star Trek, from The Expanse. He played Dresden, the scientist who was doing the protomolecule experiments in Season 1 and Season 2 that Miller shot in the head when he started making sense. And so that was a very minor role. But I guess I could make a joke about Dresden and Aaron Wright being back together again. Although they didn't share a scene in the Expanse, but they're both involved in a protomolecule. I could make a joke about how the two of them are going to be invested in protomolecule experiments or whatever. But I don't know. I'm not clever enough to come up with a funny joke about that. But yeah, I don't know. I thought he would be a more well-known actor. I was kind of disappointed it was just that dude who played Dresden, because he seemed a lot more charismatic in this episode than he ever did in The Expanse. But whatever. I thought it did a good job in this role. I just thought the episode was ridiculous. Now, the other thing I want to move on is that we do get more information on species C10 or whatever they're called, and how the motivation they realized that, or they deduced that the DMA is actually just like a farming tool, or it's just like a mining tool, or what is probably the better way to state that it's extracting a certain mineral, and maybe these aliens aren't aware that they're like destroying planets and killing people that do it. Perhaps they're existing because it's presented as like weird blob thing instead of their technology is way more advanced. So maybe they're a different kind of life form kind of situation where they're not realizing the harm that they're causing by doing this, which is an interesting scenario. And this part of it actually makes me feel really good, because I was so worried that it would just be a bunch of more mustache twirling evil villains, which Discovery does not do well. And so I'm actually glad to hear that it's a more of a misunderstanding situation and they may not be aware of the harm they're causing. That's a lot more interesting scenario for me. So it does give me a lot of hope going forward through the rest of the season. But the cheesy, poker antics and whatnot BS in this episode does not give me hope. And I hope it gets better with because it's a good groundwork. Like as I said, the whole conflict between Burnham versus Bulk is a great setup, and they did a great job in the previous episode establishing this. They kind of fucked it up in this episode, in my opinion. So, my rating for All In, out of 10, I'm going to give this a 7. Very good, because I did like it. It was a good episode. As I said, I wanted to love this episode so much because there were so many good things behind it. The conflict between Burnham and Booker, the inner conflict, some of the character moments we got between Burnham's inner turmoil. I did like that they introduced Rosakin more and gave her more to do, and I did like the sort of back and forth between Book and Burnham, but they ruined it with all the poker and wrestling and stupid bullshit. So I just can't give it more than a 7 because of that. So that's it for my review of Discovery Season 4, Episode 8. I keep getting disappointed by this show, but it doesn't suck. It never, no matter what other people say, it never swoops to the level of completely sucking and being a piece of shit. There's always some good in it, which is why it keeps getting my hopes up. But I don't think it's ever going to move past its sort of mixed results, honestly. I think the show is always going to be a mixed bag from start to finish. But we'll see. Anyway, that's it for my review of Discovery. I will be back next week, of course, to cover the next episode of Discovery. In the meantime, you can check out my channel for many more Star Trek videos. You can go on my channel right now to vote for which episode of the first 5 Star Trek original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, which episode from those shows you would like me to review next, and I shall review them. And I'm also covering the original series one season at a time. I got my season 1 review up. I got season 2 and 3 still coming, and also covering Star Wars The Clone Wars. My season 6 review will be up shortly. Also putting out a video of ranking every single solitary episode of The Expanse, which will be out this week, and I cover many more shows on my channel as well, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.